Okay. Hi, YouTube. It says we're live, and I'm just going to work on a few technical things for a moment to make sure that I can see the chat on YouTube. And once I do, that was what I was working on, not hearing that. Okay. All right.
Hi, YouTube.
We're just working out our technical things. I need to pull up the chat, and once I do that, we will commence. Okay, I can see you guys. Wonderful. All right. Wonderful, wonderful.
You know who I was listening to earlier?
Who?
David Hawking. I love him.
What were you listening to on there?
I was listening to a book called Letting Go, The Path of Surrender.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really good.
That is so apropos.
Yeah.
For all of us right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for hanging in there with us. This is the lovely spiritual teacher, elemental alchemist, channel, all the above, Suzan Smadi. And I, of course, am Pamela Aaralyn. Thank you for being on my channel. And for those of you who could possibly be watching on hers, thank you. And now we get feedback after we did all of our sound testing. You guys hear that feedback? Okay. If I still hear it in a minute, I'll have to ask for you to put on your headphones.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll stop. No, I need your headphones.
Okay.
It's like I hear my own voice coming back.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. We thought we had worked it out.
Sorry about that. This is what happens when we go live.
Yes, every time. I don't hear that. I don't hear it anymore. The technical glitch. It's a lot better. Talk so I can see if I can hear you, if I can listen to your voice for a minute.
So I'm having a great day. How are you?
That's working.
Awesome.
Suzan and I have been working together for a very long time, and I'm really eager to present her teachings and her work to you. She is one of the most real, the most authentic, down-to-earth, profound, prolific spiritual teachers that I have yet to train in this lifetime. And I am really, really just so excited to tell her and have her share her story, you know, about her journey, her spiritual path, what brought her into the world as a teacher. And, you know, everyone always wants to know, what was it like to work with me? But I know that on my end of things, working with you was incredible, because it was like looking at a reflection of myself the whole way. You did all of your homework. You were one of those students who, before I would even tell you to do it, something would come out of my mouth and you'd say, yes, and I have been studying Vedas right now and Vedic astrology. And yes, I was thinking about that. And as it would come out of my mouth, you would tell me how you had already been doing it and just following your own intuition the whole way. And it was really exciting to have such a prolific teacher studying under me or with me. I'm like, you're my mentee, but you already know everything, which was incredible. And then one day I'm like, I really don't know what to teach you. We have learned everything that I don't think I could teach you more. You're already a phenomenal alchemist, and the guides are teaching you everything. What is it that we're really going for here? And we both determined together that you were meant to teach the world, you know, how to find their own processes, how to find their own self, how to stand in their own power. And I remember you were going through all this and you were like, why does the world think that they need all these processes? And it felt like I heard me coming out of your mouth. You're like, when all of their internal guidance system is right here. And you were so frustrated about halfway through my mentorship program. And I'm like, hello, teacher. You are a spiritual teacher.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not an easy path, I think, because it comes with a lot of responsibility. and a lot of faith and trust, which you helped me with, because I came to you, I remember, I think it was November of 2017 when we first met each other. Yeah. And I came to you asking for guidance and some sort of direction. And you told me, well, you're a spiritual teacher and you're here to teach thousands of people. And I said, well, that sounds really scary, and there are so many spiritual teachers out there. So, I mean, I don't know what I could bring to the table that would be new or relevant at this point. Yeah. But you gave me that direction and that guidance that really led me back to finding the strength and the courage within and the confidence within, which I had sort of suppressed through the years from, the programming that we go through.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I think anyone who wants to open up to spiritual teaching, becoming a teacher on this planet, of course, the first thing that we feel is responsibility. Like why me? Why am I feeling chosen and pointed out? And, why is my teacher putting me under fire here? And I put you under fire. It was not easy. And you handled it with so much grace. Not once did you get angry with me for all of the catalytic ways that I taught you. Not once. And you went straight into your gifts and they started smacking you in the face in very undeniable ways. And it just wasn't an easy path. And simultaneously, you were studying all these different ways to get to God. And remember one day I said, it's not about if this is easy. It's not about if you have confidence or not. It's not about if you think you can do it or not. It's not about if you feel motivated or you feel a drive to do it. It's about, do you feel a calling in your heart? And why? Is that calling waking you up every night? Is that calling staring you in the face when you look at a homeless person that's asking for food? Is that calling your neighbor who just lost her husband and is recently widowed? Where is that calling? And for you, it's just, you've had so many and still do so many different gifts and so many different areas of interest that finally I'm like, I just can't pick one for you. You are a teacher. You are here to teach these things, not just delve out processes, but to help people find their own internal guidance system and process for them, to direct them back in here. You are a teacher that helps other people find their own guru inside of themselves. That's how I view you.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
And you're so funny because you're also a patron for a long amount of time. And occasionally, I would see you type back in some of my live Q&As and sayings, and little things would trigger you. Like if someone called their teacher a guru, or if certain things happen like that, and you would be like, okay, I can see that. And I can see how you can find your own teacher within. And that's a very powerful message to bring to the world, to teach people, to find their tools, to teach people to find their own processes, to find their own purpose. And I remember we had a class about purpose and you were triggered the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's this purpose thing?
Because the purpose really is to become aware. And from my view, it's just awareness itself. It's consciousness. Everything revolves around consciousness and us becoming more aware of our consciousness and the fact that we are what we are and who we are and the beauty that is within us, and to bring that beauty outwardly.
Absolutely. We are open to your questions, about elemental alchemy. Suzan is a fabulous alchemist. It's one of the first things that I noted about her is that she's able to understand things at a deep universal level. And then to bring that all into the now is incredible. So she has a lot less focus on the past and the future and a lot more focus on where you are now in your lives. And that to me is why I'm so excited about just bringing her here and sharing her gifts with you. She's just prolific, and you have before you right now one of the most powerful up and coming spiritual teachers that you've yet to know about, For those of you who already do know, you will be nodding right now, going, yep, she is. So do you have questions for Suzan? Do you have questions for me? Patrons, you can put it in the chat or the ask a question section. And YouTube, you can just type it right in chat, because I'm not seeing a lot of people talking right now. So can you define what an elemental alchemist is? They want to know from you. What's your definition of it?
Well, let's start with the word elemental. In my opinion, elemental is the elements, not only the elements, but the primary forces of nature. So that means sound, light, earth, water, fire, air. Did I mention all of them? But it's really the elements. So it's a lot of chemistry. And so the sciences now get involved. So we're working with chemistry, we're working with biology, we're working with physics in a quantum level, which I'm excited to be taking your class now, Quantum Alchemy, and learning more about that process, because I just love learning these tools, because the tools that I learn will help me help others. And that's really what it's all about. I'm here as a student forever. I am forever the student. And I think that's what makes me different than the gurus out there that call themselves gurus, because I believe that you don't need a teacher. Everything is here to teach you. Everything is here to teach us. Everything. We can learn from a plant. We can learn from air. We can learn from the breath. We can learn from a baby. I mean, some of the best lessons that I've learned in this lifetime have been coming from the babies, from observing babies and how babies interact, and the innocence that is within them, that's innately within them, and that's innately within everyone. And so I see people as light and dark, and we play with these roles as a way to understand life better and consciousness.
Absolutely. I agree.
And so I think that's where the alchemy comes in. To me, alchemy means, whenever I hear alchemy, I hear, my guidance say, well, you take two and you make one. So that means that you take the tools that you have in order to realize a transmutation and a transformation. Mm-hmm. And so we can do that through emotional alchemy. We can do that through physical alchemy. We can do that through so many different means. Alchemy really means creating something new from something that you already have possession of.
Absolutely. I love that you said we can learn from a baby, we can learn from a plant. And my first guru in this body and in many bodies has been sound. I call it divine sound current or sound guru. I didn't know at the time what to call it when I was a child, so I called it just music teacher. I'd always say my music teacher. And what I really meant was God in here and sound. So I completely concur. We have another question from Indira, and she wants to know how you started your journey into spirituality, and however much you wish to tell us about that. What was your journey like?
Okay, so I don't know how much I can share here, but
all of it.
I had an NDE when I was 5, and I believe that released the DMT within my brain in order to perceive things that might not be perceivable normally, But I mean, even before that, I could remember really focusing in and having a larger perception of what was around me. Mm-hmm. So I could see things that other people might not be able to see. But at the time I wasn't aware that people couldn't see what I was seeing, mm-hmm. or hearing what I was hearing, so it led me to become kind of scared as a child because no one could understand me.
Yeah.
And so the spirituality has always been within. I don't believe that there is anyone in this planet who it doesn't have spirituality within them, because it's a part of our psyche. Some people are more aware of it than others, and that's really what it comes down to, awareness of who you are and what you are. And so, I mean, after my NDE, things were kind of sort of normal. I mean, I could predict things for people. I remember I was into palmistry at one point when I was a teenager. And my mom was a teacher at the time in an elementary school in Brooklyn. And I went to her school because I was out of school. And I read everyone's palms. And people were amazed. And my mother was not into this at all at the time. My mother thought this was all nuts. And so she's very scientific, very logical, very intellectual, really genius in her own right. But she was not into this, and this kind of scared her. So it took the people around her to really tell her, well, let her do what she's doing because it's a gift. At the time, I kind of felt like it was more of a curse. So, like perceiving things about people is not the easiest path, because again, it comes with a lot of responsibility. How much can I say? How much should I say? Are they going to think I'm absolutely bonkers right now? So, I mean, I tried to push that aside. And I also was fearful of like taking on people's karma if I were to help them with their karma. So I would be like sort of taking it on as my own. So anyway, I grew up and I kind of like kept that in the DL. Very quietly, like doing this on the side. And even when I graduated from school counseling, because I have my degree, my master's is in school counseling. And I think I told you the first time we met that I was really struggling with not being able to have a job as a school counselor.
Yeah.
Because, and I felt like my guides were like sort of mocking me, saying, well, this is not for you. This is, there's something else for you. And so in this process of really honing into my own skills and my own truth, I had to like face those fears. Yeah. Fears of failure, fears of like not surviving, and I think that's part of the spiritual path. It's really facing those fears because we're undoing the programming that has been programmed for eons.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. Someone wants to know a little bit more about if you feel comfortable sharing your memories of your near-death experience.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have a YouTube video on that, but I will share it again here.
Okay.
So I was 5 years old. I was playing with my friend and neighbor at the time. He was chasing me, I believe, or I was chasing him. And I slipped in the living room in my house and I fell, hit the back of my head. And at that moment, I was sort of outside of my body and still inside my body. So it's very interesting because your awareness kind of like, it's sort of like a sponge, but it kind of like bursts out of you, of the physical being that you feel you are. And then you're in different dimensions at the same time. So you're aware, that's really what it's about. It's the awareness itself. So you're aware that you have a physical body, you're inside the physical body. Now you're aware of people around you, because I was aware of my parents, like when they rushed over to me, like panicking because they thought I was dead. I stopped breathing. And it was my mom, who knows science as a science teacher, who took me and used water to revive me. Because she knew that water is H2O, is that right? H2O, so that would give me the oxygen that I needed because I stopped breathing on my own. And so she used water in order to bring me back and have me breathe again. And then they were able to take me to the doctor to get me checked out. And during this mystical experience, if you will, I saw different lights. I perceived sound and geometric shapes. So I became aware that everything is a geometric shape, and everything is light, and everything is sound, and everything is elements, elementary, these very primitive principles. And so I focused in on one of the geometric shapes and one of the colors that I was perceiving, which was a very bright golden yellow. And that became Archangel Gabriel. And so I was able to communicate with this angel, this being of light. And I was feeling all the love, the unconditional love that I had never felt before in this lifetime. And so I wanted to really stay there and not have to like deal with anything that was back in the physical body. And I was pretty much kind of shoved back into the physical body when my mom brought me back. And I was still able to have this experience in the physical body and still be aware of what was happening in this other realm, this other dimensional arena, you know? So that's really what it was like.
And then your life changed so significantly then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It wasn't a near-death experience for me, but when I woke up around age 5, I remembered perceiving those lights and colors, and I started to perceive sound as light and light as sound, and I could taste colors. It's the strangest thing ever. And numbers were certain colors and certain sounds, and I was able to read music before most children could because of this synesthesia effect. You know, so that was a big part, you know, when you awaken to synesthesia, it's automatic clairvoyance, yay. Not so easy though, I say that in jest because it's difficult to be clairvoyant and clairaudient in a way that is purely scientific, while not really, it's kind of a top-down situation. I wasn't developed yet. I had all these abilities that are kind of the top of the mountain of spiritual mastery, but I wasn't developed in the body or the breath or the God-mind knowledge to understand how to use those abilities. So that was incredible in my experience. We have another question for you.
Before you go on, I think it's fascinating that, you know, you had that experience at 5, I had that experience at 5, and I've observed so many other people. Like 5 seems to be a very important number for us.
I notice this as well. A lot of my clients say between 5 is common, or like 6. I hear that sometimes as well, 5 or 6. Jade has a question about what you do as an alchemist with your work with people. What will that look like if they were to sit down in a session with you? And she wants to know, how do you transform one thing to another? What does that mean to you?
How do you transfer?
How do you transform one thing to another is her question.
So I feel like I do a lot of transformation when it comes to emotions, perspective, awareness. Did I say emotions? Yes. And spirituality, because the emotions and spirituality are so interlinked and they're so interconnected that it's through the emotions that we can become aware of the spiritual being that we are. The emotions, when it's a denser emotion such as fear, prevents us from becoming aware of the love that we are. So my job, if you will, is to really undo that programming of fear and have you focus in on what is already inside you. You know, and so it's going to look different for everyone that sits before me, because it depends on where they are in the now moment. And so the guidance that comes in is really about where you are in the now moment, where that could lead you to a better future, a better building of your future due to the becoming aware of what could be possible. Because the belief systems is what really creates reality. And if our beliefs are erroneous, we're gonna build upon that. So my job is to kind of like undo the belief systems in order to create something foundationally stable and grow from that.
That is incredible, because beliefs create everything that is creative. They build that as a fundamental block in third dimensional living. And even though we know, you know, ACIMers, this is a dream, you want to have the best dream possible. And working with an alchemist or a spiritual teacher can bring you to tapping into the elements within you that are most useful to find your building blocks. And if something's blocking, if something's in the way that's fear-based, someone, you know, such as Suzan, an alchemist, can find it, tap into it. catalyze you to find it as well. It's not just her throwing everything at you. The way that she works is very similar to the way that I work. She will ask you pointed questions that cause you to seek more deeply within yourself. Spiritual teachers and alchemists will not spoon feed you answers. They will help you find your own truth.
Yeah, it's a guidance.
Yeah. Finding your internal guidance system. They were asking, were you able to meet any other archangels or ascended masters during or after your near-death experience?
After I was able to connect. The ones that I connect to the most are Gabriel, Michael, of course, because everyone in this planet apparently connects to Michael, which is Michael. Metatron. Actually, Metatron came in 2016, which was a transformational year for me. And so Metatron's presence really came in very, very strong, which is how I created my website and how I created like my business cards. It was all kind of channeled through Metatron. And other interdimensionals, which are like other beings from other planets, but we're not going to go there.
I think it's absolutely fascinating how you talk about these sort of things, because we use so much of the same language. And with your near-death experience, Samantha had a question about, she wants to know if you think it's possible, or if I think it's possible for, like, if you're really close to your sibling, to experience their near-death experience, even though it's not happening to you. And I think it is.
I think it is, because we're just consciousness.
Yeah.
So if we're just beings of consciousness and love, why wouldn't we be able to perceive from someone else's perspective? It's the ego is the part of us that kind of like has us identify with a role, right? So the ego says, I'm a female, I'm a student, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother. I'm not actually, but I could be. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, or whatever. So all these roles are based off of ego, which separates us, and it, compartmentalizes the psyche, as opposed to bringing it together. The soul just is. Yes. There is no like compartmentalization. The soul is one. Oneness is soul. Oneness is spirit. So in order for us to perceive someone else's experience, all we have to do is tap into the soul that we already are and who we are. And there you go. Like, that's how we can communicate with animals and plants and all these things, because we're actually tapping into the super mind that makes everything possible.
The God mind, yes. Yeah. I agree. I see it a little bit differently, although much. I think spirit is the oneness and the everything, and then soul fragments. There's like a piece of, and this is, sometimes we call these things spirit guides, right? And we give them names, and they have creative dreams that they're living out alongside us in parallel existences that we call the past. And the further we feel separated from source and identify with these names and experiences, instead of understanding our oneness, the more we start to create, okay, this one is in the 18th century, and this one was back in the times of Atlantis, and this one is Suzan now. But really, all of those fractionalized experiences are dreams that the more you identify with their personalities and with names and with things of that nature, as Suzan said, the more you kind of believe in separation from God. And while that's a creative dream that we choose, and it's fun, and I don't see anything wrong with it, I can see how at some point fear could possibly interlace itself and in a very sneaky way merge in between those stories, and create more separation and more personality identity complexes and more things. And there's always something else in these dreams to learn and to master, something that we need to fix from a past life, or some way to no longer be present in our now.
So one thing that comes up when I hear you talk about that is, in my work with BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing and hypnosis, I notice that whenever someone has a visual or an experience of a different lifetime, in my opinion, it's never, I don't believe in past or future, because all we have is the now. So all I see is parallel lifetimes. And so when a parallel lifetime comes into the picture, it's because you are dealing with something that is a match to that. And so you need to work on whatever it is that that's showing you. And that's really what it's about. I mean, I don't really truly feel that we are like, I really resonate with Gandhi, right? But I can't say, I was Gandhi in a past life. You know what I'm saying? Because we all are Gandhi, because it's consciousness. So even though there's a personality that comes through as Gandhi, we are consciousness, and that supersedes everything else, and I can't take ownership of that, because consciousness just is. It's not my consciousness. It is our consciousness. It is oneness, So that's really what, like when my guidance comes in, it's really all about oneness and about understanding the principles of it is not yours as separate. It is ours as a community.
Yeah, as a collective, experiencing this dream together. And again, even though it is a dream, we want to live in our highest and best and whatever is relevant, in our experiencing right now. And this is what I love about Suzan's work, is that she always draws people back into the now, this moment right in front of your face, and ask very pointed questions. Inquiry is so important as a teacher and an alchemist. Healers, you too. It's very important to use spiritual inquiry to really know. That's the only difference really between me as a channel and maybe say a beginning channel, is that from age 5 until my age now, well, I don't ask too many questions now, I take that back, but from age 5 until about 2018, I bugged the crap out of my guides. I was persistent, like, well, why? Tell me about this. Well, I wonder if this is true. And I wonder if that is true. And then I learned how to ask the right questions.
It's very important.
It's so important. And I love that. And I love that about you as well.
It's all in the asking.
It is about how you ask.
Because we can ask things that are totally irrelevant, and we're going to get those answers, So do we want to get to the root cause, or do we want to play around in the what ifs,
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Kevin, for saying that. Viramu has a question for you. He is wondering if you feel that you have to meditate or that you need to ground after seeing your clients throughout the course of your day.
Not at all. What I do, though, that I've been doing lately is actually taking notes, because I've been, before I felt like I had an elephant's memory and I could remember everything perfectly. Now, not so much. Now I feel like I'm so in the moment that what happened 5 seconds ago is totally completely gone from my memory. And so it helps for me to actually write things down, write some notes down, so that in the future, when, I see the client again, I might have a recollection of what happened in our session. So, I mean, other than that, I don't really feel like I need to ground or anything in that effect. I'm the sort of person that doesn't believe in protection and spiritual protection, because if I am God, does God need protection? That's my perspective.
Yeah, we're God, fear nothing. Even just the concept of I need to protect just sort of insinuates that there's something out to get you, or that you should be afraid. It almost causes it. I look at protection in a way of, if you feel that you absolutely need it and you are aware that you're in fear, okay, go ahead and do it. If you aren't afraid of something and you feel that your pranic energy is sustainable, you are able to functionally manage your life throughout your day in this physical world. And you're doing well emotionally and physically, and your health and well-being and your whole state, mind, body, spirit is intact, then by all means, go ahead with your bad self.
Well, I mean, even like illnesses, right? Even something as simple as a physical ailment, right? When we get sick, I haven't really gotten sick since 2017. And now thinking back to that time, I had laryngitis, April 2017. Why did I have laryngitis? Because I was preventing myself from speaking my truth, you know? And so the body's going to feel that and let you become aware of that through manifestation of laryngitis or something else having to do with the throat. And so emotions are key in order to transform our reality.
Yes.
If we don't deal with our emotions, we can't transform anything.
You can't. It's just bypassing otherwise. And the emotions, if untended, they use the body as a communication device to deliver, which is why people get sick, you know, and that the body is not trying to. So many of my clients, I don't know if you have this experience, but so many of mine are like, why did this bad accident have to happen? You know, why is my body doing this and that? It is trying to get your attention for love. It is calling you back to love. It is a return to oneness. Almost every single time the body's saying, love me, love you, love us, love the world, love your circumstances, et cetera, et cetera. Accept, love, compassion, rest. These are some of the common messages that I hear from the body, you know, and an alchemist, working with an alchemist like Suzan, can bring you back to those messages that your body is trying so desperately to get your attention with, you know. Annie Claude has a question for both of us about channeling. And I find that this is a really relevant question in spiritual development because it is so common. This is a common phenomenon. She said, I've been channeling for a few years now, but nothing's coming these days. And it has been about 4 months and it just stopped abruptly. Is there any reason for this? Is it possible, you know, for the channeling abilities to stop?
So what happened 4 months ago?
Yeah.
4 months ago. Something must have happened 4 months ago to get you out of the alignment of channeling. Because honestly, everyone's a channel because we're all built the same way. The body is the antenna and we're perceiving our reality through the antenna that is the body and the physical senses. And then the higher senses, which is the feeling and the thoughts. Because none of that is truly yours. It's just a way to perceive reality, right? So what happened 4 months ago? There must be a trauma there. Something must have happened in order for you to feel out of alignment with the truth that you are.
Yeah. And my advice to you, Annie Claude, is a yogi's advice here. If you're seeking for the trauma, but you're not conscious of it, say you can't answer that question and you really don't know, let your breath guide you. Go into the prana, just breathe. You know, there's a really simple technique that I teach in my Kripa yoga classes called the one technique, where you stop what you're doing. And there's 2 different ways to do it. There's a part 2 to the one. I know that sounds funny, right? So the first part of the technique now, patrons out there, you're going to get excited because this is new for you. This is new. So listen up. Part 1 is breathing normally in with a long breath into your nose and then exhale all the way down. And then at the very bottom of your breath, as you bring it down to your spine, hold it and say the word one in your mind. And that's it. And then you just breathe again, breathe out, hold it at the bottom of the breath, retain the breath and say one. Now, here is an even more powerful way. So this time you breathe in through your nose, all the way up the base of your spine, and then retain your breath. Don't exhale. Retain it right here like there's a cap over your head. I call this my yoga cap. And now say one slowly, as many times as possible, at least 3 times. Exhale back down, and then say one at the bottom of your breath, just once. So you're doing three different things. You are activating the base of the spine, which is the deep seat of knowledge of God mind. So you're activating the Higgs boson from the spine when you focus on the very bottom and breathe up. When you retain the breath here, you're actually decrystallizing these yucky toxins that come in through the environment and what you eat and the emotional negativity that you're breathing in to your life. You are taking that out of the pineal gland by the restriction of the breath. When you retain your breath, it literally pushes that crystalline blockage in the pineal gland out. And sometimes you will feel little tingles or explosions or weird things happening in your body when you retain the breath there. And the longer you can say one, at least 3 times, mind, body, spirit, 1, 1, 1, very slowly, before you exhale is really important. Retain that breath as long as you absolutely can. Your breath, you do that before you start using spiritual inquiry and asking questions. A lot of times in emotional alchemy questioning, you ask yourself, what do I feel? And when is the last time I felt that way? And those pointed questions will guide you back into something, whether it's conscious or not, but try doing that after the one technique. Do the one technique first, because your breath will just clear everything that's in the slate of your consciousness, get you out of beta and alpha and pull you into the theta states of the brain or the delta. Sometimes this can put you in trance, people. Sometimes you'll feel a little sleepy. And when you're there, you're not thinking about, oh, I can't do this right now because I'm going to be late for work. Or, oh, I can't do this right now because I have to walk the dog or wash my hair or avoid my boyfriend or whatever is going on in the back receding portions of the brain. So this kind of gets that, constant chitter chatter out of the front of your brain. So scientific yoga is science. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is what that does at the quantum level. And then you might be able to access the deeper subconscious levels that with why that happens. Another thing, my perspective on if channeling automatically just stops for several months and you're not able to access your gifts, I'm going to get real with you here for a moment. You cannot hold oneness, consciousness, and activity of meditation and breath in one hand, cheeseburgers, eating meat, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, and cursing out your beloved in your other hand. You can't. These two things. One of these things is not like the other. Okay. So you can just sing that little song with me for a while and understand that your life needs to balance out. We're not closet yogis, people. Yoga is life. Bring this into your world. It is a lifestyle. Let your peace extend before into your environment. 1000% of what you do. You walk your walk. Don't just talk a talk.
Absolutely.
That's not really you, Annie Claude, but for many others, I know that it could be.
Yeah, many people who call themselves spiritual, I feel, are doing it because they feel it's the next best thing.
Yeah.
And that's a trigger for me,
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Kevin is asking a question for both of us. Can you help me or share a very good way to connect to my guides? That's a common question. I feel I embody love and I am in the now. I can see synchronicities and signs in my life and how much my life's improves, but I don't know them being the guides. What would your advice to him be?
So, what is your guidance, right? Some people will perceive their guidance as a personality, such as a grandmother, an aunt, a great-grandfather, Saint Germain, and they'll come in as these different personalities, or it can come in as a collective consciousness, like oneness. So my advice for anyone who wishes to meet and know guidance, their own personal guidance, is to really connect to the heart and put your hand over your heart, breathe into your heart, and connect to the breath and connect to the heart being the one breathing. Because in actuality, yogis can bury themselves underground and still be able to breathe because they're not breathing through the lungs, they're breathing through a different body part. Everything in the physical body can actually breathe. We're just not aware of that. And we believe that not to be the case. And then because beliefs create reality, we kind of like drown, you know, because our lungs are perceiving a lack of oxygen. So connecting to the breath and to the heart specifically, the heart is the common denominator when it comes to understanding soul and spirit, in my opinion. I mean, you know, like I said before, everyone's a channel. I was having a conversation with my father many years ago, and many people would not consider my father very spiritual. However, there was something that he said that always stuck to me. He said, Suzan, listen to your heart. Do not listen to the mind. The mind will trick you. Yes, that's exactly true. So connecting to the heart, listening to the heart, and not focusing on what the mind says. The mind's going to trick you and say, oh, but that's not really true. And this is why it's not really true, because you know that this is the fact. The ego only knows patterns from what it has known in the past.
Yes.
So what we want to know is the truth within our heart.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what we yogis call karma. But there's such a misunderstanding about karma a lot in New Age communities. You believe that it's something that's bad that you're carrying over, that you need to clear, that perhaps there's a punishment and perhaps there's a curse, all of these things that I've noticed about New Age belief systems here in the Western part of the world. What I really believe that Suzan could be talking about is the accumulated memory. And when we become, as she says, aware, I love that word, I love that you use it, of how we're using that memory, how we're choosing to use that memory, both in the mind, the body, and our actions. So how are you acting out that karma in your mind? How are you acting out that karma in your body? How are you acting out that karma in spirit? How are you creating with that karma? When you're choosing positively, this is when you focus on what's innately good and you are acting and reenacting and responding rather than acting and reacting. So you are going into a space of dharma when you become very conscious of choosing oneness and choosing love, you know, and choosing connection.
I just have to show you something because
Okay.
I love that you brought up karma. So this is all about that.
Yes, those are the same books that I use too.
Yeah.
And as we were going through Suzan's mentorship program, there was so many times that when she got these vedas that she would refer to them and find so many powerful things within them. It's like a map of all of that, a map of the body, a map of the different worlds, a map of different technologies that could be ancient technologies from other worlds that can be useful in our spiritual development here in this environment. So I'm glad you're using them.
It's interesting because Vedic astrology is all about understanding karma and how karma is involved in this lifetime.
Yes.
The thing is that once we understand our karma, then we have choice. Then we can choose to not act in a sleeping state and choose to act in an aware state and then create from that reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're aware, ego isn't driving your every decision. You know, so many people just walk around on earth on autopilot. They're like, I have to go to work, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not going to be here for a while. I'm going to zone out from this. That's the worst thing that you could possibly do is to become like a walking zombie. Mm-hmm. That is not consciously choosing how to create from your karma, from your accumulated memory, accumulated DNA throughout time. You've mastered all of these lessons and you're bringing through so much. So it's good to start being aware. Leanne has a question for both of us about the benefits of Akashic readings and how this would be different, how Akashic readings differ from quantum healing techniques and QHHT and beyond quantum healing and quantum alchemy.
Well, in my opinion, Akashic record reading is just a creative expression of your reality. So when you're going for a reading with a reader, a psychic, or what have you, you're actually having them perceive your reality, right? And you can do that through a quantum healing hypnosis session. Perceive your own reality, go into your own Akash, because it's a dream. It's all a dream. This is a dream. So why would the Akash be any different? It's all a dream. And it's a dream within a dream within a dream. Have you seen Inception?
Yeah.
So when we're dealing with the Akash, we're just dealing from that awareness. So when you go to an Akashic reader, they're just perceiving that aspect of you.
Right.
Okay? To help you in the now.
Yes.
It's always about the now.
Yes. And if you are going to a good qualified, professional reader of the Akash, ethical one, they're always going to find a way to make that information relevant to your now. So I tell people who come to me for an Akashic Records reading, what is your intention? And I ask you rather, what is your intention? Why do you want to know this information? Not because it's fun or I'm curious or it's entertaining. Those are not real answers that are going to help us access relevant records. So what the guardians of the Akash, particularly like Archangel Raziel, what the guardians of the Akash they're going to ask me that as the guide through the records. Why are you bringing this person to me? Why should I give them information? Because there is a reason. Ego does something that is actually very helpful. It blocks you from those things until you are emotionally and physically ready to handle that karma or accumulated DNA. You have a contract, and this information from the karma that you have accumulated throughout these records, it comes through at very relevant times where you can handle the information. So for us to play around with the Akash just for the sake of fun and entertainment and shits and giggles is not exactly appropriate. We need a darn good reason.
Yeah.
So some good reasons might be, I had this illness. I want to know how it is a benefit. Perhaps I'm experiencing a repeat of the same type of negative patterning in relationships. Perhaps I keep getting fired from jobs in the same way. That is a pattern. So when you have a pattern in your life, we want to figure out why it's there. If you have a block in your life, karmic records have nothing to do with that. Your block is your lack of awareness to yourself and the various ways that you continue to block yourself, as we've been discussing throughout class, all of those ways here. So blocking, no, you're not blocked. That's ego. There's something there that's making you believe you're blocked, but it's not that. It could be anything from psychiatric medications to cigarettes to drinking to being unaware of how you are making decisions and how you're living your life. It could be anything. It could be depression. It could be grief. There's many perceptions of blocks, but it's not. In actuality, blocks don't exist. The ego likes to create a stop period until you return to your breath, until you return to yoga, until you return to your heart, until you return to what's real, and start to listen to the body and what it's telling you, listen to your emotions and what they're telling you. If you're tuning out because you're afraid of money, you're afraid of leaving a negative relationship, there's so many things that you tune out and you become unaware. And when you do that, that creates this perception of being blocked from spirit when you can never be blocked from that which you are. So hear my heart when I say this. I implore you, blocks aren't real. Hear that. Suzan is the person to go to when you want to figure out what they are and how to see reality.
Reality is relative. That's what I always say.
Yeah, the now is so relevant. Oh, this is interesting. Do y'all have a magical practice outside of what you're talking about? Or do you consider magic and channeling and so forth as one and the same?
Well, alchemy is magic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We have two different types of magic. The magic of illusions that we go see in a circus, let's say, or we have the magic of transformation of the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
And that is alchemy.
Yeah.
And we can look into Hermeticism, or we can look into the Kabbalah. It's full of alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. I do. I love altar work. You know, I'm right now working with Hanuman and probably will be for the rest of my life. So I have a beautiful black marble Hanuman statue, and I offer fruit. I bring offerings of fruit and other things like incense and things of that nature. And I chant is my most powerful magical thing that I do. I chant, and it's not so much about the deity itself or bowing before the deity. It is about me making time to be present and in a sacred humility, offering up myself and my time to this sacred practice. So to me, altar work is about sacred humility, because gods don't care if you bow before them. However, if you realize that you are God, you will bow before all. Absolutely.
you're actually bowing before yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So that is my alchemy practice. And the more regular you can be with it, the better that's going to be in your life, because it brings you into such a sacred space that just keeps going the rest of your day, all the time. Oh, this is a good one. I'm sorry, did I stop you?
I think that because those are processes, right? So whatever process we can find to put ourselves in that zone,
Mm-hmm.
that's what to do. So it's more about like finding your own truth, finding your own version of reality, and sticking to that, because that's what's putting you in the zone. It's not because someone else told you, well, this is what I do, and so you should follow this. Okay, yeah, you can do that, and you can believe that, and you can create from that. But you can really hone in into your own truth and see what puts you in that zone, and then use that. That's a lot more powerful than using someone else's truth.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, have you noticed that I actually, as an experiment, because I like to experiment, I put an apple in front of a Buddha, and I put it there last November for Thanksgiving. It's still there. It hasn't rot. It's not rotting.
Wow.
So I'm not sure what's happening with that.
Gautama Buddha likes you. I love this question. How do you know how to trust? How do you know to trust a psychic or a medium when going to get a reading, especially if you haven't had a reading before? What's your take on that?
Well, again, you're connecting to your own truth, your own heart. Your heart will tell you. Your whole being will resonate with the information that you're getting from this person. The problem with readings, and I've spoken to you, Pamela, about this, is that I feel like it disempowers people.
It can.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to a reader, you're actually giving your power away to this reader. Not only that, but you're putting yourself in that situation where you're going to be creating from that information that you get, therefore fulfilling that prophecy.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's a much more empowered state to know your own truth. If you want to go to readers, by all means, go to readers. I am one reader that you can go to. Pamela's another one. But it's really about going to a reader with a solid foundation of who and what you are, so you can know if something resonates with you or not, and then taking it from there.
Yeah.
And still creating from an empowered place, because that's really what it's about. When you're going to readers, when we go to readers, we're going with the energy that has brought you there in the first place. So as an energy reader, we're reading timelines, and we're reading what is the most probable outcome based on where you are right now. So if you want to change where you go, the key is changing how you are right now, changing the energy flow now, and then that will create a better outcome in the future.
Yes. I love that you say that. I'm completely right there with you on that. You know, don't like your life, change it. You want to go somewhere different, do something different. You want to change, be the change. And um, my take on your question, Kevin, is number one, um, just maybe do your research. It's gonna, if you aren't trusting and if you're skeptical by nature, you're not going to trust somebody before you meet them, much less putting your life contract in another person's hands, because that's what you're doing when you're going to your reading, people. You're basically reviewing your life the way it is now. Sometimes if it's Akash, you review the past. And then if you ask about the now and the future and they give you advice, you begin to either accept or deny a potential for changing the contract of the now and of the future. So it's really important that if something isn't connecting with you, if you don't understand what a reader is saying, ask. If you don't resonate with the advice that they're giving, say, I'm sorry, I'm not resonating. Can you say it a different way? Can you explain a little more? And then if it still doesn't make sense, you can say, I'm sorry, that doesn't really fit the picture to my life, you know, and just move on to the next question and possibly to a different reader, like go into meditation, go to this reader, yourself, not me, yourself. I'm pointing to your heart, you know. So basically it's important to be really open. You have to go to a reader in openness. You cannot go with a skeptical, closed down mentality and energy. If you're going to go to a reader, if you lie to your reader, they may or may not know it, but they will feel an energy block that basically all of their information is going to be presented based upon the unreality that you've just given them, and it confuses them too. And they get information based upon that, which is automatically inaccurate because you lied. Truth comes from truth. You tell them a lie, you're going to get a lie because they're reading you. They're reading what's in the mental field, and they can't read beyond the mental field if you just blocked it with a lie. So I want to just call you out because I've had so many people think that they can do that. And I'm like smiling. And I'm like, they are lying right now.
I always say to them, you know, like, don't they know that I can tell when they're lying? And now I feel like I'm wrong because, you know, it's just a really bad situation.
Yeah, because the reader's trying to be humble and they're trying to be like, well, I'm feeling something inaccurate about what they're saying. And I don't want to call them out as a liar. It puts us in a bad space because we're like, this isn't right. Something's wrong about what they're, and that's all that's going in the background of our head during readings. We're like, something's not right. Do we call them on it or would that be disrespectful? Because if you are sitting before a real, authentic, trained reader, my readers in particular who I train, if you sit before them and you lie to them, it's either going to make them cry because they're very sweet and humble people, or it's going to make them, if they're in their power, they may not work with you again. They will call you out on it. I've trained them to call you out on it, especially this one.
I call out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do it in a very loving way. I'll just say, you know, I'm not sure, but I'm not connecting to the energy of what you're bringing forth right now. I'm going to ask you to rephrase the question because something appears to be blocked between us. And I want you to make sure that you are giving me accurate information right now. And that is a gentle call out. So you don't always have to be like in the face with it like some people are. But Suzan might be. She's a catalyst. She might be like, dude, you're trying to test me right now. And I really don't feel like it today because I've already had a rough day. So get over it and ask again. So don't bring that to her. She'll get you. Oh my, this is a good one. I only have about 5 more minutes though before I have to close. And I want to give Suzan a little bit of time to talk about her work and what she can offer to you and let you know how to find her because I'm closing in 5 or 6 minutes. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me at quantumhealers.com or sacredconnections8.com. That's my website. Or YouTube, Suzan Smadi, SUZAN SMADI. Or Facebook. I'm not very big on social media actually, but I mean, I'm working on it. It's a process. What else? Yeah, I mean, that's really it.
Okay, I have posted in the chat of YouTube all the different ways that they can find you, and you definitely will not regret it. You will love absolutely every moment of your time with her. If you're training yourself to be a spiritual teacher, if you are just looking for a spiritual teacher because you want to get to the highest and best in your contracts and you want to develop some abilities, you want to review the Akash, these are all great reasons to sit with her. So if you guys want to find me, I'm at PamelaAaralyn.com for a lot of recorded classes. If you want more live Q&As, satsangs, teachings of the Vedas, a lot of different classes and channelings, you can find me at patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. I am accepting donations today via Super Chat. So thank you for your support. And I will see you next time. Thank you, Suzan, for being with us, for gracing me with your powerful presence. And I'm so excited for the changes that you're going to be making in our world. And it was just such an honor to work with you and to continue to work with you.
Thank you so much, Pamela. We
Thank
all love you.
I love you too. Suzan Smadi, everyone. See you soon. Bye.